Hi there, it's Sarah from Paper Lovely. Thanks for joining me today. I'm going to be working with the Cuddly Koala stamp and coordinating die set from My Favorite Things. Here I am using my Misty. I'm going to be stamping onto Bristol Smooth cardstock, and I'm using Simon Says Intense Black ink. I'm stamping out the koala, 3 of the branches, as well as the tree. Now I'm going to go ahead and use my Zig Clean Color Clear Brush markers to color in everything that I've stamped. And in the bottom corner of the screen, I will include the numbers for each marker that I'm using. Now, I'm going to go ahead and use my Zig Clean Color Clear Brush markers to color in everything that I've stamped. And in the bottom corner of the screen, I will include the numbers for each marker that I'm using. And now that I've finished with my coloring, I'm going to use the coordinating die set to cut out each of the elements. For my card today, I'm using My Favorite Things snow cone cardstock. I'm making an A2 size card, and here I am cutting a front panel for that card, measuring 5.5 by 4 1/4. The reason I want to keep these colors the same is that since I'm making a slider card, when I move the element up, I want to make sure to keep that continuous color in the background. So here I'm just laying out some elements to get an idea of what my scene will look like. I'll be using 2 border dies from Lawn Fawn. The first is Puffy Cloud Border, which I'm cutting out of Sweet Tooth, and the second is the Grassy Border die, which I'm cutting out of Green Room. Both of those are also MFT cardstocks. So again, I'm laying out my scene here, and now I need to position where I'm going to put the slider element so I can get that cut. I'm going to be using the thinnest rectangle that came in the Blueprints 32 kit from My Favorite Things. This was also a part of their April release. So now I've got that positioned next to my tree. I'm going to tape that down, take it over to my big shot, and cut that out. And there you can see what it looks like after it's cut. I'm going to go ahead and using my ATG gun, I will attach the grass at the bottom and the clouds at the top and just trim off the excess there. Now I'm going to turn my card front over, and I'm going to create a channel for my slider to fit down into. So I'm using Scotch double-sided foam tape, and I'm going to make sure to leave a nice border around the slot that I've cut in the front of the card. And then in between these 2 layers of tape is where the slider is going to run. Here I'm trimming a piece of cardstock, and this ended up being about 3/4 of an inch, and it's going to fit down in the channel that we've just created. Now I'm going to finish off the bottom portion of the channel. I'm again going to use the Scotch foam tape, and just place, this is 1/2 inch size, and I'm just going to place that at the bottom, making sure it doesn't peek up over that grassy border, and that will stop my element from falling off the bottom of the card. Now I'm again just working on my layout. I want to have this koala look like it's climbing up the tree, so I want to make sure that I have the tree close enough to the slider element so that it looks somewhat realistic. I'm now placing on the slider part of the channel some Scotch foam tape, and you'll see when I pull it apart how this is working. I'm putting it on that back piece, and then the foam tape will stick up through the slot on the front, and that's what will allow my koala to slide. There you can see how that element fits in the channel. So I'm attaching my koala there, and then I'm going to place the other elements of the scene around him. There I'm making sure that I don't have any of the glue from my ATG gun sticking on the edges of that tree. I don't want anything to stop this koala from moving smoothly. There my tree wasn't quite as close as I wanted it to be, so I just pulled it up and I'm moving it over slightly. And I noticed that I wasn't getting quite as much action as I wanted on the card, so what I decided to do was trim down the piece of foam tape that the koala was mounted on. This is gonna allow him to slide slightly further, and it'll look like he's climbing a little higher. Now I'm going to pop up the individual branches of the tree to give the scene a little bit more dimension. And I'm just placing those on with one layer of some foam tape that I've trimmed down to about 1/4 of an inch. So I'm working to place my 3rd branch there. I like to do things in 3s. I just think it tends to look more normal, more natural, I guess. So I decided that I wanted to place it on that far edge of the tree, and because it's popped up, I was worried that the koala might run into it as he was climbing. So I went ahead just to avoid that. It probably would have been okay, but just to avoid it in advance, I went ahead and added a 3rd layer of that foam tape on the slider element, and this way he's gonna clear that with no problem. Now I'm going to work on the inside of my card. I decided to go with the sentiment, "I'd climb the highest branch for you." And to stamp that, I'm using Lawn Fawn ink in the color of Deep Sea. And then I also added the branch just for a little something extra. Now moving back to the front of the card, I'm going to trim that slider to just below the edge of the card, and I'm going to use some washi tape to make a pull tab. I think this adds a little something extra to the card, and it's also great because if you want to mail this, you can fold that washi tape down and it will fit inside a regular size A2 envelope. Here I'm going to attach the card front. When it comes to those larger pieces of tape there, I'm just going to peel the backing off about halfway. This is going to give me a little bit of leeway in case I need to move the front around. It won't be completely stuck right away. Carefully line that up there, making sure that my slider is still properly in the channel, and then I'll peel away the rest of the backing. And the slider works. Here I'm adding some shimmer using my Spectrum Noir pen. And when I finished that, I still really felt like the card still needed something. So I happen to have lying on my desk some leftover Lawn Fawn paper. This is part of their Perfectly Plaid set. It came in my Simon Says stamp card kit this month. So I cut another strip of the grassy border there, and once I laid it down, I thought, oh, that was perfect. That finished the card completely. So I'm going to attach it at the bottom, and then I will trim off the edges. And that completes our card for today. Close-ups of the card as well as a full list of supplies can be found at my blog post listed in the description below. If you enjoyed the video, please give me a comment or a thumbs up and subscribe for more. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.